In the beginning of parallel sorting algorithms, people were obsessed with the idea of sorting networks. So what is a sorting network? A sorting network is a fixed circuit that sorts its inputs using a special type of circuit element or gate called a comparator. For instance, here are two examples of comparators. Each one takes two inputs and produces two outputs. The increasing or plus comparator puts the smaller of its two inputs on the top wire and the larger on the bottom wire. By contrast, the decreasing or minus comparator does just the opposite. For example, suppose you feed the values of 1 and 6 into a plus comparator. The output will just be a mirror of the input because 1 is the smaller of the two input elements. Now suppose instead we replace them with a minus comparator, then the output would be reversed relative to the input. Like an electrical circuit, you can compose comparators by connecting wires. For example, suppose you have these three values and you want to sort them. I claim that this circuit will do it. It takes three inputs, produces three outputs, and contains three plus comparators. Let's trace its execution. The first comparator would produce this result. What about the second? The second would produce this result. Notice that the second takes its two inputs, 3 and 1, and puts the smaller one on the top wire and the larger one on the bottom. Finally, the last comparator would produce this result. Here's some symbolic mumbo-jumbo that describes what this circuit does. Yikes! Stare at it for a minute and convince yourself that, for any input, it will produce a sorted output. Now I want you to notice something else about this circuit. As we said before, it has three comparators. It also has a depth or critical path length of 3. Here I've drawn arrows to show the dependencies among the comparators. This analysis should remind you of the concepts of work and span. So if you can take an algorithm and encode it as a circuit, we can analyze the circuit with respect to how many operations it performs and what the critical path length is. By the way, here's a question. Suppose you're only allowed to use these two types of comparators. Compared to this circuit, do you think there's a way to sort three elements using fewer comparators or in a way that has a shorter critical path length?